Stephan Ekbergh, it's not a South African name, but you're a South African in spirit. You've been living here, you're making a difference in this particular landscape, you're creating jobs, but let's not talk about that right now. Let's talk about you when you were 18 years old, because I want to start that particular journey, because some people thought, he probably went to university, got 5 MBAs, then decided he'd get into investment banking like a lot of people, and then decided that's not enough, I want to go and teach entrepreneurs. It didn't work that way. At the age of 18...
Almost not.
Almost.
Totally
Almost not.
No.
At the age of 18, you started your very first business, hiring out DJs, I believe, and also promoting rock music.
Yeah, so that only came a little bit later, though. But I started to collect records when I was, 10 or so.
Yeah.
And actually, I started to work when I was around 7 to buy music. So I worked weekends, and I did that through all the school years. And so, by the age of 13, I had the biggest record collection in the village where I grew up. And so naturally, they asked me to play on a dance, and I was completely mesmerized by the fact that I could capture an audience and get them to do whatever I wanted them to do. So, and that continued. And when I was 18, I said to my dad, "Listen, I'm going to be a professional DJ." And he said, "What the hell, So,
I'm sure a lot of us have kids, or we've been kids, and we wanted to do something like be a skateboarder or whatever, and they said, no, go and get a real job.
Yeah.
But the seed that gets planted, that drives you to want to do that. Do you remember what it was?
Well, I think, there's a whole bunch of reasons. So my dad was a dentist, and he worked from home, and I grew up in the country, a small village. And none of my friends, their parents, they didn't have proper jobs. They all, one was a butcher, another one, was cleaning chimneys, another was a farmer, and carpenter, etc. So I grew up not knowing, that you're supposed to work in an office or work for somebody. So for me, it was always natural. I never thought about the fact that you should actually work for somebody.
And that is quite enviable, actually, because a lot of our kids get told these days that, you've got to go and do the university, you've got to go and, get your MBA, it's the only way you're going to get into business. Yeah. But if you look at the real entrepreneurs on the ground, a lot of them have followed a similar journey to yours. But it didn't stop there. You did the DJs, you did the rock music, you then moved on to video stores, second-hand clothing, industrial equipment. See, I do good research. I know all these sort of things about you. But your first travel venture, which is why we know you, because of what you're doing in the travel space. 1989, I believe, your very first travel venture, international tours.
Well done. So international tours was... This actually came by in this way. I was in South Africa in '89 and on a vacation with my brother, and we were here for a month. I just fell completely in love with the country, and I thought, I got to do something about this. So I started this company called International Tours, and one leg of the company was doing upmarket trips for people that wanted to go to South Africa. And of course, most people didn't want to go to South Africa at the time. And of course, the press hated us, and I think everybody hated us for promoting South Africa in those times. But it grew. So.
And so that was a more bricks and mortar. When I say bricks and mortar, it was online, but it wasn't at the scale at what you're doing and using Travelstart for at the moment.
No, one part of the business was actually consolidator business. So it wasn't at all. What we did was quite innovative at the time. So we were selling trips that other agencies could sell, and they faxed in their offers. And that was sort of. And some of them they didn't have faxes, so we had to buy faxes for them. So.
And how things have moved, though? Do you know anybody with a fax machine at the moment?
No.
No, I don't know anybody that uses faxes. The Netscape Navigator 1 came out. That made you realize, hold on, there's an online business in this. We can do something about it.
So the evolution there was really that, I was working on a project called Final Call, which was basically these phone numbers that you pay phone numbers that you could call in and ask for last-minute offers, but the navigation was really clunky. Press 1 for Europe. Press 1 for Europe, press 1 for London, 2 for Manchester. So, if you live in Zagreb, you can just imagine, if you want to go to Zagreb, it's like, 60 rand before you even get to Z, So, but yeah, it was completely stupid. But so basically, so there was something called CompuServe at the time in America, and so they were up there against AOL. But I remember first time I got onto CompuServe, and I realized that actually I could book a flight ticket because I knew the cryptic commands that you do in Sabre and Amadeus and those, and they actually published the green screen just as we had in the travel agencies.
Yes.
So they published that, and I could book a trip there, and I was just, shit, this is incredible. This will change everything, and then I thought, you just got to build a pretty interface on top of this, and then you got a brand new world.
Oh, well, I mean, hence, the birth of Travelstart didn't start in South Africa, though. It started in Europe. You exited that business. I won't ask you how much you made. I won't ask if you've made, $9.5 million or 10 or 20. But you did exit that business initially when you started Travelstart, I believe, and then rebought Travelstart when the bubble burst.
Yeah, So basically, I sold the business after about 1 year or 9 months or something like that. And listen, it was a tiny business. It was ridiculous. There was losing money like crazy. And a German company that was backed by Goldman Sachs and Deutsche Telekom came and wanted to acquire my shop for $10 million. And I thought, what? And of course, we were basically, facing bankruptcy all the time, So because we didn't have any backers, so I said, yes, where do I sign? And I signed it, and of course I was paid, 95% of it was paid in paper, and the acquirer, they went bankrupt a year and a half later, and I thought, what? It's actually easier for me to repurchase this company and fix it properly, and then starting from scratch. So I basically took those few $100,000 that I had and repurchased my company, and have been doing it ever since.
Now, there are lots of people toying with ideas. Everybody's got a great idea. Mm-hmm. But sometimes people sit in cushy jobs, they're very comfortable, they don't know what to do next. You've obviously learned a lot of lessons. I've spoken about some of the successes. It's not always been very successful. I believe you got fired once as well. We can talk about that. Twice. Okay, we'll talk about your firing soon. But what are some of the key lessons that you've learned in terms of, moving from ideification to actually doing something about it and getting something started?
Well, I think the most important, is starting to create sales very, very early. And because if you can create sales, then you've got, over time you will have, a real business.
Yeah.
I don't believe in businesses that, will have to go for time and time, without making any money. It's okay if you want to, if you're a game developer or something like that, I understand that, then you have to just invest money until it's fully developed. But most of the companies don't do that. So I always say to people, try to really focus on sales. So everything that I've done over the years has always been, how do we get our first customer? How do we get our second customer? So that's important.
Now let's move on to the firing. What happened there? Twice, not the same business, I hope.
Which one? No. So, it's a long story. So, the last one, was basically Mr. Jet, which was, one of the first, or the first online travel company in Northern Europe. I was fired by the investors after a year because basically I was too much pain in the ass, so.
It's a good thing to be a pain in the ass. I mean, Raymond Ackerman was fired for being a pain in the ass at, what's the name of that company?
No, but it was very good. It was very good for me because, I unfortunately in my job, I sometimes have to fire people as well. And I can feel the pain and aggravation that they're going through, but I can also understand that this is probably the best career move for you right now. So I think, I have the empathy, and oh, was that funny? Okay.
Has anybody been fired out there? Can I have see any hands? No one's been fired. That means you're not going to start a business. Oh, you've been fired. Okay, that's good, sir. Thank you for letting us know.
But I used to ride horses, in the past, and they say you can't become a good rider until you've been thrown off the horse a few times, and it's the same thing,
Now, Travelstart, we know Travelstart in South Africa. You've got a .co.za. It's ostensibly a South African product right now. Why South Africa? You could have gone anywhere in the world to launch this. Why did you decide to come to Cape Town? Why South Africa?
You know, ever since I was here in the 80s, I always felt, you know, this sounds corny, but I always felt, you know, a deep connection with the country. And I always wanted to move here. When I got married, I took my wife here. She also loved it. And we were sort of always looking for a reason to relocate, you know. And Travelstart launching in South Africa and becoming fairly successful, that was just an afterthought. You know, I just needed something to do when we moved here because my business in Sweden was doing really, really well.
Yeah.
And my plans were probably just set it up here, see what happens. You know, maybe we can hire 6 people if we're lucky. You know, maybe it can, you know, generate some income so we can, you know, so we don't have to pay to run it. You know, so it was not really. But then if I really think about it, you know, I probably always thought that it will do pretty well, you know.
Yeah. Well, it certainly suits your Africa strategy. The whole idea is to grow into the continent, but we'll get there. We'll talk about that. But starting something of this nature in the tech space, creating these opportunities for us, you know, you've got Expedia, you've got another app called Cheap Flights, and Cheap Flights sometimes has cheaper flights than I find on Expedia, right? Be honest about that. So differentiating your business. So even though you've got that Africa strategy, there are other apps people can access. So in terms of differentiating yourself from what currently exists out there, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so we believe in being very, very local and giving, you know, really great service and, you know, differentiating ourselves with content. So oftentimes you can find stuff, you know, on our website that you can't find on Cheap Flights or Expedia and the others. You know, so we spend a lot of time you know, chasing down the suppliers to get the best deals on that. So it's really about, you know, service, you know, and you know, great content, you know. So,
so I'm not even going to get into the technical side, the engine and all these other fancy things you guys do in the back to give us the details that we need. But I almost fell off my chair though when I found out that MTN and Amadeus, I can understand Amadeus having money, I can't understand MTN having money, but you guys were invested in quite substantially by Amadeus Capital and MTN. And having too much money or having a lot of money sometimes can be one of the biggest problems.
I know that.
Exactly. So you want to go into this continent? That's what you're going to be using the money for?
Well, we're going to use it for a whole bunch of things, really. You know, so one of the things that we need to do is, you know, so we you know, want to build like a big emerging market group, right? And that is sort of, you know, our overall strategy. We want to win Africa. Africa, you know, when it comes to travel, you know, the online penetration, some countries is less than 3%. South Africa, you know, hovers around 10% now, maybe a little bit less. So there is lots to do there still, and we need to be able to, you know, find, you know, the best talent for that, and we need to be able to, you know, we need to build the best, you know, apps that are out there for these markets, and we need to build, you know, we need to get the best products and supply on board. So we've actually, you know, we're a very air-centric company, so 95% of what we do is air, and so, but we want to venture into other areas like, you know, hotels. We want to do that better. We want to do cars better. We want to do buses. You know, we want to do, you know, probably corporate travel. Some of the other stuff. You know, we might look at acquisitions as we go. So you know, we got a big plan.
You say you want to do this better. I mean, there's got to be a little bit of, and I mean this with the greatest amount of respect. There's got to be a bit of naivety involved in some of the belief that we have in ourselves. Some people say that sometimes we need to be strategically naive about, you know, our way forward. Because if we overanalyze the road that we have to follow, as Richard Branson said, if he had to listen to bloody accountants, he wouldn't be flying Virgin Atlantic. I mean, do you believe that naivety, a little bit of naivety?
Absolutely. I always say that naivety is one of my best assets that I have, you know, because it really keeps you from understanding just how unsuitable you are to do what you're supposed to do. So I think naivety is really, really good. And, you know, if you study through the history of, you know, great companies, you know, they always went on a mission, you know, that was doomed to fail, you know. So, yeah.
And perseverance is another one.
Totally.
I'm not even going to ask you how many times you've probably wanted to give up. Because I'm sure there must have been once or twice. No?
Yesterday was the last time.
Okay. Overcoming that, as Stephan Ekbergh, it's a very lonely place sometimes when you're sitting in there thinking, this is going to go to shit. I don't know if this is going to work.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, in the early days of the company, I sometimes spend more time in the toilet, at the company, either throwing up or crying or praying, because I actually didn't know what to do. There was a time in the early days when, just after I repurchased the company from, the previous owners. We had 40 people in the company working. I had to fire 34 of them, so there were 6 left. And most of those 34, they were friends of mine. So I didn't have any friends left. And on top of it, we absolutely didn't have any money. So I had to negotiate with all the creditors to please give us some slack. And when they finally did, 9/11 happened. And basically in 9/11 and 2 months thereafter, there was more money going out of the company than going into the company. And every day when I went to work, I said to my wife, "Listen, I don't know if this is the last day. If I know I'm coming home, but I don't know if the company exists tonight. But I'm going to do whatever I can." And there's this collection agency, state-owned collection agency in Sweden that come and collects debts. They were at the company every day, giving me some for some debts that we couldn't pay. And so but the good thing with 9/11 was also that a lot of my competition, they went bankrupt. And I thought, damn it, I've got an opportunity here if I just can hold the creditors. So we sent all the creditors a letter saying, I promised to pay off all the debts plus 8% interest if they could just give me some slack, And actually, they all sent me a letter back replying, say, we're happy to, and that saved us, And we, about a year and a half later, we were the number one. We were making good money, Another half a year later, we'd paid off all the debts. So
let's hear it for that. We all find those lonely places. We're all going, half the time you probably go around going, I have no cooking clue what I'm doing. I know what I want to do, but I've got no cooking clue what I'm doing.
No, but it's hard, because you see something, but you see it very vaguely.
Yes.
And you don't really know what it is, and you try to convey this message to people around you, and they think you're completely nuts. So
we do that, and I think if one just talks, some people might have kids around here as well, not here, but at home, some hopefully at school even. And those kids would be going, Mom, I want to do this. Dad, I want to do that. I would say that the biggest mistake is to tell them to go and screw their passions and go and follow the road already traveled. And sometimes we need to...
But I've got some points around that as well. You see, when you and I grew up, definitely, I'm younger than you. I'm much older than you. So in those days, you were supposed to get a job. There was no, self-help literature. There was no Google. There wasn't people that said follow your heart and all these things. And so I think kids today, they're actually, they're overexposed by this stuff that follow your dreams. You can do whatever you have in your hearts. That's bullshit. You can't do whatever you have in your heart. And most of them just need to take a flippin' job. And on another note, I saw there was guys here waving their hands that they're entrepreneurs. Real entrepreneurs, they don't go to conferences.
Yeah,
they're working.
Yeah. That's right. The only real entrepreneurs who go to conferences are the ones who get invited to be there. And they've hired enough people to run the business.
The guys that don't pay.
So once again, how many people are entrepreneurs out here again? Stephan, time for us to wrap. I think we've got about 40 seconds left. Just something I was thinking about moving into Africa. It's easy to say you've got this platform and you've got all the good things working, you've got good people behind the business, but you still have to negotiate in each and every country with each and every bloody airline.
Yeah.
Is that one of the biggest challenges you face?
No, it's terrible. I mean, airlines are not that tough, but banks, are much worse. And often one of the issues is that you have to sell something that's pretty new that they haven't done before. But you see, I've been doing that my whole life, selling this stuff that nobody's doing before, and so bang your head against the wall enough times, you stop, you understand that they don't understand what you're talking about, but you really have to sell it to them.
Well, Stephan Ekbergh, what a pleasure. It's going to be, I'll be interviewing him tomorrow again. We're doing what they call Cape Talk in the boardroom, and we've been invited to broadcast from your boardroom at Travelstart tomorrow. So I'm
awesome,
looking forward to that.
I look forward to that.
So the people who've heard this, hopefully you'll hear a different interview tomorrow. But Stephan, what a pleasure, what a privilege. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, everybody.